How does a series with so much charm and potential steer so heavily off course? Animal Crossing New Horizons was probably the most anticipated update to the series. Coming off the back of New Leaf, this upcoming Switch game had seemingly one simple job. Take all of the great things about New Leaf, bring it to the Switch, and expand. Now, the game's not awful, but come on man, even the hardcore fans don't really like it that much. Today, I'm going to be breaking it all down. How this humble little GameCube game got its start, became a cornerstone of Nintendo, and ultimately struggled to meet the expectations of the fan base. But before we get into that, we need a little bit more context. You see, Animal Crossing began its life as a little game called Animal Forest, an early edition of the game that ran on the Japanese Nintendo 64. Think of it as being somewhat similar to the GameCube game we all know and love, but without quite as many features, like the Able Sisters shop, a couple of missing villagers here and there, and small little tweaks that nobody would notice unless I made a whole dedicated video about it. I remember going to my friend's house on the weekends, popping this sucker into the GameCube, and listening to him talk my ear off about how great he thinks Camo Frog is. In this early version, and sort of in this game, you find yourself kind of limited in a handful of areas, but most notably in the clothing department. This game didn't have custom hats, fancy shoes, glasses, and the whole fixings to make whatever abomination that you wanted. You could only really customize the design of the shirt, the hat, and sometimes an umbrella, and even then, they weren't really that good looking. But it got the job done, and it's a mechanic that Nintendo would continue to expand on in every single entry. So while Animal Crossing is progressively improving their wardrobe with every game that they release, I will also be upgrading my wardrobe with today's video sponsor. Fellas, listen, it's a new year, and that means you can't keep wearing those crusty old t-shirts from 2022. This is Into the AM. They sent me over a care package the other day, and dude, I gotta say, I'm really impressed. This isn't even a part of the ad read. I was really just that impressed. They've got these super high quality graphics tees, and even if the graphic tees aren't really your style, they've got plain tees, hats, beanies, shorts. I mean, dude, they've got everything. Why would you go to the mall and spend $50 on a t-shirt when you could spend $60 and get 3 high quality graphic tees from Into the AM? But listen, fellas, that's not where the deals end. If you check out Into the AM and you use code DAN at checkout, you'll save an additional 10% off of your order. That's 10% off of an already really good deal. So what are you guys waiting for? Head on over to intotheam.com/Dan to save 10% off of your purchase. And by the way, guys, supporting these guys is like supporting me. Companies like this help keep my channel afloat, so I would actually genuinely really appreciate if you guys would go check them out. Big old thanks to Into the AM for sponsoring today's video, and let's jump back into the action. So the original GameCube game, in hindsight, a bit rough around the edges, but still had a ton of charm. The big pull of these early entries were the villagers and how they would interact with you throughout the game. These early versions of the villagers were, quite frankly, absolutely brutal in the way that they would talk to you. These guys had actual personality, and when you look into the cool little extras like the gyroids and the actual literal NES games that you could buy and play, it's easy to see why this was a great launch pad for the rest of the series. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't really play Wild World. I played it, but all I did was turn all of my weeds into bells by using my trusty action replay. Thankfully, it's very similar to City Folk, which I played the absolute shit out of. People talk all kinds of trash on this game, but it's probably my favorite in the series still. The villagers, while not quite the high school bullies that we had in the first game, still radiate personality and are a ton of fun to talk to. They'll play hide and seek, they'll stop by your house from time to time, and are generally just fun, but a little bit too nice at times. See, Nintendo started getting complaints about how mean they were in the older games, and so they had to hit them with the good old censorship button that Nintendo loves so much. Aside from that, I mean, this is Animal Crossing, but on the Wii. In my opinion, right where it belongs. It's the same simple formula of move in, work for free, get fired, and then trade turnips until you have a trillion billion bells. This is also the first game to offer a wonderful feature called running that was then ruined by the fact that you could mess up your grass. People were quite upset about this at the time. The big switch up here was the city from the name City Folk, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a little disappointing. It's more of a plaza than anything, and it's absolutely overrun by poverty. And the shops, well, they're just the same villagers that you would see for the random encounters of people coming to your town. But it did do some things better than City Folk, like bringing back holidays, cut villagers, and even voice chat. Oh god, the voice chat. Cityfolk had support for a wonderful little device called the We Speak. It was supposed to allow everybody in the room to be able to partake in the online conversations, avoiding the stranger danger that comes with having a personal private headset, because, well, Nintendo. And it was great. In theory. You see, somebody thought that it would be just such a wonderful idea to take this trash tier little $7 microphone and slap it on the top of the television. You know what else is on top of the television? Speakers. Blaringly loud speakers that gave everybody feedback loops anytime that they play the game. I guarantee that I deafened everybody who I spoke to with this thing, including my little sister, and I think it's the reason why she doesn't talk to me anymore. Cityfolk was a great addition to the series, and it still holds the title of my favorite game on the Wii, which means a lot to anybody called DannTheMan. But as much as I love Cityfolk, it wouldn't even come close to what Nintendo was going to do next. Animal Crossing New Leaf is without a doubt my favorite. Absolutely the best Animal Crossing game. Instead of being just another resident, you are now the mayor of this town, which from a story perspective helped a ton in explaining why you're now able to do so much more customization to the town. New Leaf expands on all of the things that made the previous games great. If I ever have the itch to go back and revisit one of my towns, every single time it's always the New Leaf one. Not because it has the greatest quality of life features or even has the best villagers, but it's the most balanced game in my opinion that has a little bit of everything for everyone. And I think I can tell that just based off of my content that I made on the game. Everybody loved my New Leaf content in a way that they really didn't attach onto with New Horizons. I'm gonna hold my tongue for now because I want to make a dedicated video on just how great New Leaf is. And then there's New Horizons. I know everyone gives me a hard time for how hard of a time I give to this game, but man, just let me cook. Just let me ramble for a second. I don't think I have been this disappointed in a game in a very, very long time. And I played Ninja Bread Man. Like let that sink in for a second. This was supposed to be the best Animal Crossing game. And honestly, I feel like it's the worst one. The villagers are like talking to a big bag of rocks. Right? You know rocks? I mean, yeah, it added quality of life. It added terraforming. But at what cost? You can't even do any of that stuff when you play online now. The online system takes too long. And there's just no content. When I was complaining about the game back in 2020, everybody was telling me, oh Dan, just wait for the updates. Just wait for the updates. Well, the updates came. And it turns out I was right. That all of the things that were missing from this game were simply not going to be added. And it sucks to say, but after seeing the way that this game turned out, I don't know that they'll be able to convince me to buy another Animal Crossing game again.